Let me play the section that we're talking about. This is President Biden today talking about 1-6 and making that comparison. Let's watch.
Mother Fletcher said when she saw the insurrection at the Capitol on January the 9th, it broke her heart. A mob of violent white extremists, thugs, said reminded her of what happened here in Greenwood 100 years ago.
I want to bring into our conversation with Kim and Jason and Claire, my colleague, MSNBC correspondent Trymaine Lee, live from Tulsa. Trymaine, we've been having an animated discussion about, you know, what worked, and in Jason's view, some of the things that fell flat. But I wonder how this speech and pulling really what are all of the open wounds in this country today into this very sacred memorial of this massacre 100 years ago.
Nicole, I think it was such a clear-eyed laying out of history, and in so many ways, kind of the fabrics of systemic racism and the broad impacts that this violent economic dispossession that this community suffered, how it has this long tail that people feel today. And I think that it echoes conversations I've been having with people in this community for so very long. I think it's one thing to engage with the history, but in so many ways, the history was in fact buried, which is part of the broader suppression and oppression of the black people in this community. And so even as we're having these conversations about reckoning with what happened so long ago, 100 years ago, so few officials until relatively recently were even willing to discuss it publicly at all. It hadn't been taught in school books up until the mid-2000s, which is insane when you think about it. The evidence was disappearing from old police department records. You had old newspaper clips disappearing from the city libraries. And so to have President Biden here today talking about confronting the truth and reconciling with what actually happened here was met with some optimism here, because the narrative still has not been centered on this community. I'm here on this stretch of Greenwood Avenue across from the Greenwood Cultural Center with a few hundred people staring over to the Cultural Center waiting for Joe Biden to appear. And then there was a moment when a gray-haired local tribal official emerged and folks thought it was Biden and they erupted in cheers, right? So people are here waiting to get a glimpse of Joe Biden. But again, for him to do what so few politicians, let alone presidents, have done in terms of laying out with the brutal experience that folks have experienced here, but also connecting the dots, I think goes a long way to making people feel seen finally. It's one thing that people have been asking to be made whole, repairing what had been damaged, but it's important also for people in this community to finally feel seen. Because for generations, black folks traumatized, carrying along that trauma, inheriting that trauma where there wasn't wealth to pass down, whispered about this. Because folks in this community were devastated and the white folks in this community had gotten away with it, right? So generations didn't want to speak about it. On the other hand, much in the white community, the power structure officials wanted to intentionally bury it, and they didn't talk about it. So we have this conspiracy of silence no more in so many ways. And so we'll see after the cameras leave, after we all, go away, what happens next. We know there are divisions here with people raising money on the backs of the narrative, people raising tens of millions of dollars for Greenwood, essentially, but none of that money is going back to the community, right, in a real meaningful way that the community can accept. None of that money is going to the three descendants, 100 years old, who witnessed that brutality. And so while there are still wide divisions, perhaps we are at a moment where we can, as Joe Biden laid out, in a clear-eyed fashion, engage with this terrible history. Nicole?
Well, Trymaine, let me follow up. I mean, Jason made this point about the survivors not benefiting from that. Can you just flesh that out? Help me understand that. And I just want to ask you about some of the more vivid lines of this speech, and to also another one of Jason's earlier points. There is an education piece to this, right? I mean, there are some people, probably white people, and I imagine this is something that gets papered over more in white communities or white households, that don't know the horror of this, that 8 of the 24 churches were burned. He described private planes dropping explosives, described it as hell being unleashed, and then went on to describe the brutal way in which black Tulsans were killed and what happened to their bodies, the interments. I mean, just talk about balancing sort of the relief of being seen, in your words, with the re-traumatizing of the horrors.
Well, when we talk about the re-traumatizing of a community that's being black in America every single day and watching the news, or existing in communities that have been disinvested in and deprived, and then have the violence of the state heaped upon us, and the violence of hunger, and the violence of lack of access to proper health and education, that's all there. But when we talk about those survivors and this idea of making them whole, sometimes I think reparation seems like some far-off idea because no one today suffered a specific kind of injury. But in this community, there are at least 3 people who suffered a specific kind of injury, who were here when their families' homes were destroyed and when businesses were destroyed, and how even after they rebuilt into the 1920s and 30s and 40s, then there were other efforts to heap another kind of violence. And then it was urban renewal, which drove a highway right through this community. There's the pain of not even still being able to identify the remains of those victims who were gunned down, who had incendiary bombs dropped from airplanes, right? That kind of suffering. And then today, gentrification, this community who have been building itself back up to be beat back, coming back, and then being pushed out and priced out of a community that was their own. You think about through the 90s and 2000s, eminent domain. The government came in here and swept through. You have Oklahoma State University here, sitting on a beautiful patch of land that once had been in black hands, right? And so it goes on and on and on. And this community, again, even though I think the folks I talk to are happy that we're turning the lens on this community, and the truth, the ugly truth, is finally being known. As you mentioned, the trauma of those wounds being ripped open, and what's more traumatizing is that nothing will likely be done about it. Those survivors aren't going to get any of that money as it appears right now. This community, think about North Tulsa, the less prosperous side, on the other side of the tracks, literally disinvested in compared to the majority white, more prosperous South side. The school system, the health, everything. So what happens next? And I think in some ways what we've done with all our reporting and the president coming here and all this is laying out the fabric here and the quilt here so America can sit back and say it happened in Tulsa, it happened in Rosewood, it happened in Elaine, Arkansas, it happened in New Orleans, it happens time and again, and then we reveal the systemic nature, the coordinated nature of this. And so I think that idea of trauma, I don't think as black people in this country we have much choice.